I will spend more time on the radio Saturday, telling the public how honored I am to be here. But I have been dreaming of this moment for a long time. I've been privileged to speak at a number of penal institutions throughout the country. San Quentin, but I've always included San Quentin, but I've always kind of wanted to come to Vacaville and to Folsom because I got so much mail from Vacaville and Folsom. And alhamdulillah, last Saturday, I was privileged to be in Folsom, and this evening I am here. Everyone has spoiled me. They have tried to make me into a celebrity, and I really appreciate it, but I want you to know that I am simply your humble brother. I don't believe in any big distinctions. I think that we are either for the race or we're not for the race. And if we're not for the race, whether you have a degree or you don't have a degree, you're dangerous. I have thought at great length about my brothers in the penitentiaries. And my message to you, in a very succinct way, is this is our day. This is our time. We are not going to forget the past, but we're not going to be so fixated on the past that we don't move to the future. We have a very short period of time, and during that time we will either make it as a people, or we will begin an irreversible disintegration, much like the American Indian. There should be in this country today, at the minimum, 100 million American Indians. Minimum. Minimum. You would be hard-pressed to find 1 million. There should be a minimum of 150 million Hispanics in the United States alone. When Columbus and Cortez came, there were 25 million Aztecs in Mexico. When they left, there were 2 million. 23 million had been wiped out. There were over 100 million of our brothers and sisters from the continent of Africa who were involved in the slave trade. 100 million. And it's as though it never happened. The President of the United States traveled to Hawaii to remind the world of the invasion of Pearl Harbor that caused the death of approximately 2 million Americans. What about our 100 million? What about the Aztecs, the Incas, the Mayas? We are told that your deaths weren't that important because you never contributed anything to the world. As a matter of fact, you should be happy to give up that 100 million because we brought you out of the jungles. Mass starvation, mass disease, mass no schools, no education. We have brought you from that decadent state of affairs to America. Why would you want a monument for 100 million people? Why would you want to remember that? You should forget that as quickly as possible. Think about something more productive. Laugh. Get with it. Think about the Cosbys. Think about Eddie Murphy. Arsenio Hall. Something to lift up your spirits. But I'm here, my brothers, to tell you that I will never forget 100 million of my blood. Never. Never. And I will never forget what that 100 million represents. Because we were here from the beginning. From the beginning. The Bible said God created Adam and Eve. It didn't tell us what they looked like physically. It just said God created Adam and Eve. The Quran also said that Allah, the Almighty, created Adam and Eve. But we are given an additional bit of information. He created them out of black clay. What does that mean? That means they look like me. Black clay. If the Quran had said that Allah had created the first man out of white clay, every television show in America, when they started that show, would say, let us pause for a minute of solemn prayer to thank the Creator for making the first man out of white clay. But God didn't do that. He made the first man out of black clay, so they tell you it's really not important. Whether he made him out of black clay, green clay, blue clay, doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter, why did he say it?
Teach Islam.
Some people say, well, that's religion and that's theology. We don't believe in a creation of the world like the Bible. Well, let's put it aside and let's ask the archaeologists and the anthropologists and the linguists to tell us where have they found the oldest remains in the world. And they will all tell you that they found them in Africa. The oldest. They found one brother. He died when he was 12 years old. He lived 1,600,000 years ago in Africa. 1 million. This was a Homo sapien, not a half ape and half human. This was a human being, 12 years old when he died, 1,600,000 years ago. Bring the professors. If they think that I'm making it up, bring them here. And we will bring the evidence. The Quran says when a person tells you their conclusions, ask them for their evidence. That's reasoning. The Quran teaches you how to reason. You don't need violence. Reason. Where is the evidence? I showed in my book the young man's skull. That's my evidence. Physical, direct evidence. 2 million years ago, in the country of the Congo, the black man made stone weapons 2 million years ago. This has now been discovered. It was a big headline, San Francisco Chronicle. And then as the anthropologists studied further, they became frightened. The Newsweek came out on the cover. Eve, the mother of humanity, was an African. And you don't even want to have African blood in you. When I ask some people where they are from, they want to be anywhere but Africa. Any blood but Africa. Well, you know, brother, I do have some Indian blood. And my high cheekbones, everyone knows it's always been in our family. We got every blood but Africa. There's a reason for that. Because once you connect with your African heritage, an explosion takes place. And you are reunited with your past. Africa is so large. If you were to take India, China, Western Europe, United States, put them all together, they fit inside Africa. The richest continent in the world. That's why no one wants you to think about Africa. The beginning of civilization. In Zimbabwe, we built great walls with no mortar. They can't do that today. No mortar, no cement. And these walls and structures existed for over 1,000 years. That means you have to know how the wind is going to blow for 1,000 years. Whether there will be any earthquakes within that 1,000-year frame period. And you have to make the calculation to know exactly where to put the brick. Otherwise, one brick falls, the whole structure collapses. Over 1,000 years, no brick ever moved. That's how bad we were. Cecil Rhodes was so mad when he came from Europe and he saw the great Zimbabwean structures. They took cannons to blow them down. They were furious. The black man might find out who he is, blow it down. Like the pyramids, the Sphinx. They blew off the noses of the pharaohs, hoping you wouldn't recognize your kith and kin. But they didn't understand the mirror test. The mirror test simply means look in the mirror and then go all over the world. When you find the largest number of people who look like you, stop. The Chinese will be in China. The Japanese will be in Japan. The Europeans will be in Europe. And you will be in Africa. Africa and the Middle East. The Middle East is just northeast Africa. That's all ours. Don't take anything from me that Allah gave me. We had too great a civilization to be a slave. We were strong. The Catholic Church made a special decree saying, don't enslave the Indians anymore, but it's all right to enslave the Africans. Because physically, we could handle it. But in order to have a real slave, you had to destroy their dignity. Many of the American Indians would prefer to commit suicide than submit to slavery. That cost the slave owner a lot of money. They didn't want you to commit suicide. So they had to get your mind to make you want to be a slave. to make you enjoy being a slave. And the way they did it is to convince us that we had no past. We're nothing. We came from nothing. And we should be happy that the white people were kind enough to let us stay here on the plantation, in the cabins, and enjoy welfare. And we came to accept that. We were given 3 seconds. 3 seconds to accept mental slavery or die. That meant you had 3 seconds to give up your religion. The reason that your religion was so important because Islam networked all over the world. There were Muslims in China, Muslims in Mongolia, Muslims in the New World. And because Muslims were all over the world, if you were connected with Islam, you would know your history. So they couldn't have that. You would know that Jesus was of African descent. You would know that Buddha was of African descent. You would know that Emperor Wu, the founder of the Ming Dynasty, was part Mongolian and part Sudanese and a Muslim. You would know the Harappan Society, 10,000 BC, where people built 2-story houses with toilets in the houses, and the people were African in India. They had a network of villages all the way from northern India to Russia. That's hard for you to believe. It's hard for you to believe that in Algeria, the Africans were driving chariots 10,000 BC. Black Africans. I saw the picture. 10,000 BC. You could not be a good slave knowing that. You could not be a good slave knowing about Timbuktu, where the Muslims from Africa performed medical heart operations. They had people coming from all over the world to sit at the feet of black intellectuals. If you knew that, you would want to read. You would want to continue your tradition of reading. To make sure that you would forget forever, they passed laws that if a slave had a book, he was to be killed. If you hated reading, why pass a law? If you were backward and retarded and incapable of learning, why pass a law forbidding you to have a book? They knew your history. They knew that you had come to this part of the world long before Columbus. They knew it. The reason I know they knew it is that in Columbus's diary, he said, when I was returning to Spain, I saw the Africans returning back to Africa from Mexico. It's in his diary. They knew what you could do. But they had to make you like a little child. They had to take away the knowledge. They knew what Ibn Battuta said. The great Ibn Battuta, the great geographer, traveled in West Africa. He said he went to one area where there were 300,000 people living together, black people just like us, with no police and no crime. No rapes. He said, I saw it myself. They wanted you to forget that. They wanted to know that you could be an obedient slave and do whatever you are told. So just to test you, they would send for your wife, your daughter, your son to the big house and rape them in front of your eyes. And they wanted you to smile. If you show any anger, you're a dead man. They were just testing to find out if the complete death had taken place. Did you hide one nerve? Did you hide part of your dignity somewhere? They want to test it. Your wife is screaming, your children are screaming, and they're watching you. And they're laughing. And they're saying to each other, do you think they're brainwashed enough? To make sure that you abandon your religion, they made you eat pork all day long.
That's right.
Pig feet. Pig intestines. Pig tongue. Pig ears. And they watched you. At first you said, no, I can't do that. It's against my religion. Kill him. So fear came into the people, systematically induced to destroy your ability to be human. They wanted a slave like a machine. They wanted your strength, not your mind. They wanted a zombie, a robot, that would do the work without complaint, whether you were fed or you were not fed. To make sure that you would never remember your religion, they changed your name. Dr. Farah said that 80% of all of the slaves that went to Brazil were Muslims when they came to Brazil. You say, well, if it's the same slave and they're all coming from Africa, how many were Muslims when they came to America? Oh, we don't know that. Well, come on, was there 10%, 15%? There was 80 in Brazil. Well, we just didn't keep those kind of records. So then I get sometimes irritated, and I forget that I should always be nice. And I say, you're lying. They say, well, Dr. Almansour, you've been to college. You have degrees. You shouldn't talk like that. I said, then you shouldn't be lying. Because in the 17th century, in the state of Virginia, they passed a law. And the law said, even if a Muslim converts to Christianity, he must remain a slave. Now, if there were no Muslims, why would you use the name in the law? You would just simply say any African that converts to Christianity is still a slave, or any West African, or any Southern African. Why would you say a Muslim in the law? They knew we were Muslims, but they knew that Islam was dangerous because you cannot become a zombie if you're a Muslim. Allah has too many ways of keeping you awake. He has Ramadan to bring you alive. He has 5 times praying every day to bring you alive. He has a whole body of history to keep you alive. They couldn't let you become a Muslim because then you might start reading and you might find out that Jesus was of African descent. Buddha was, all the Muslims knew that. Buddha was African descent. Moses was of African descent. Abraham was African descent. Ishmael was African descent. Everyone knows that. In fact, the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was of African descent. Oh my God. Would you like me to prove it?
Teach us long, brother.
We don't have to hide anything. We don't make up anything. Ain't no mysticism. It's just history. If I tell you that Socrates is white, you say, well, why are you making a big deal out of that? Of course he's white. If I say plenty of the younger and plenty of the older, they're white, you say, sure. If I say Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides, Thucydides, they're white, along with Aristophanes, you say, sure. But when I say Jesus is black, the Prophet Muhammad, these people start getting scared. That's like saying the angels are black. They say, oh. Right. Try to imagine me with some wings flying around like an angel. You can't conceive of it. We are told everyone's going to go to heaven if they live right. You can't conceive of an angel looking like me. You can't conceive of an angel looking like Martin Luther King. You can't imagine it. Because we have been thoroughly brainwashed. We don't know who we are. Going in circles, running around, committing cannibalistic acts against each other.
Right. That's right.
You commit them against Whitey. Whitey knows what to do with it. That's our history. They don't want you to know it. Even today, they'll tell you immediately you're making it up. You're exaggerating. And some people get intimidated. Say, well, maybe they are making it up. That's why I tell them, come here, tell me to my black face I'm making it up. Bring your books with you. The best minds you have. Let's go to Vacaville and present it to the people. Let the people decide. Don't keep all the debates at Harvard. Bring them in. If we only knew how great our civilization was. There's a brother by the name of Uthman el-Jahis. He wrote a book called The Glories of the Black Race in 800 AD. He wrote over 200 books in his lifetime, a brother. Born in Basra in Iraq. Brother. And he wrote a book and described our history up to 800 AD. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. He said that the Prophet Muhammad, his grandfather was an African. That's what he said. I wasn't there. That's what the man said. He said all of his uncles were Africans. I was not there, but I do know enough to tell you if anyone had lied on the Prophet in 800 AD, he'd be dead. He would not have lived to write 200 books. Living in Basra, we know that the Prophet's mother was a slave, Amina. We know that he married an Ethiopian. That's circumstantial evidence. What about some direct evidence? You can get no greater evidence than the words of the Prophet himself. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said before he died, we must always remember the Copts from Sudan and Ethiopia because I have their blood in me. So if he was proud to have African blood, why are we trying to conceal it? He said, well, brother, that's not talking about his heritage. It's not that important what race he was. Then why did he say it? He must have thought it was important. He took the time to say it. He didn't have to say it. Allah didn't have to say that he made the first man out of black clay. He could just say, I made man, period. Don't ask me no questions. John didn't have to say that Jesus' skin was the color of burnt grass and his hair